Hi guys, it's Ariana. Welcome back to my channel. So for tonight's video, we're going to be reading some more scary stories. So I did post a poll on my community tab this morning asking if you guys wanted this video up tonight or tomorrow, and most of you guys said tonight, but it's already like 8:30 and I'm on the other side of the city, so I probably won't be able to get this video up tonight, and if I do, it's going to be really late. So I might be posting this tomorrow, but it's my birthday weekend right now, so I'm gonna be pretty busy this weekend. So I'm gonna try to get it up as soon as I possibly can, but it might be a tomorrow thing. So we shall see. If you're seeing this tomorrow, then I posted it tomorrow. So I guess we will see whenever I posted it. So as per usual, we're going to be reading some more scary stories. So I have a bunch of stories from Reddit and a couple DMs and emails that I have to get to, so I'm super excited. As per usual, I have the hot chocolate candle going. It smells so good. If you've never smelled the Bath & Body Works hot chocolate candle, it smells amazing. And I have my wicked candle in here because it's just super cute, setting the spooky vibe. So let's jump into these spooky stories because I'm super excited to read them. So the first one is from the paranormal section. It's from the Reddit author lazy_stranger2328, and it's titled My Experience with Demonic Possession. My earliest memory with this thing was when I was a kid. I was in bed and something woke me up. It felt wrong and terrible, so I hid under my covers like a kid would. And I felt this strange thing creep up my bunk bed, up the ladder, and literally just stare at me. I could feel its presence right outside of the blanket. I fell back asleep somehow, desperately wishing it would leave me alone. It would then give me nightmares for years, and they'd always be the same. I'd be in bed, like I was awake, but I'd be paralyzed, and I'd just see it hovering above me. It always had this shit-eating grin, like it was enjoying what it was doing. It came in many shapes, but the two eye holes and smile will always be burned into my memories. Sometimes, in the dreams, I'd be able to move. My body would weigh a ton and I wouldn't be able to get out of the bed. I would cry for help, to find my voice didn't work. I'd literally crawl out of bed sometimes and turn on the light to find again it didn't work. Sometimes I'd crawl and make it all the way to my brother's room or my parents', but they'd never be able to help me. All the while, that thing was just there, eating it up. The thing is, it always felt so realistic. Like I didn't know I was dreaming until I woke up. It was horrifying. Sometimes it bled into actual waking paralysis, and I would know for sure I was awake, but be actually paralyzed. I would see it lurking around my room, crawling on the ceiling, or just hovering right above me, smiling like it loved to do. Eventually, I learned how to fight back. Instead of getting scared in those dreams, I would get angry, and I would swing at the thing if I could. It changed its tactic and started giving me different nightmares. But when my sleep self started to notice it getting dark, I jolt myself into lucidity and banish whatever form it took and change my dream. So it came for me in my waking life. It would whisper awful things to me, make me distrust people and hate myself. I had no idea it was the thing, and it was putting these thoughts in my head. It sounded like my own voice. It would make me hurt myself. It drove me to attempting suicide in high school. It made me do awful, destructive things, and I lost a lot of friends. I'm still traumatized and have shaky relationships with people in general. As I moved out of high school, I got into spirituality. I did a lot of research about energy and entities, and I finally put the pieces together. I was possessed. It was a demon. Probably a low-level one, but a demon all the same. At my lowest point after the suicide attempt, it showed itself to me in person. I had just been kicked out and was living in a total dump of a place. I really hated myself, and I was getting drunk and throwing things and channeling a lot of anger. I guess it was enough for it to manifest because I heard a deep rumbling, almost like a growl, and I could feel something coming out from the other side. Then a shadow appeared, complete with horns, a tail, and glowing red eyes. I felt powerful fear just by looking at it, as if it radiated fear and negativity. I didn't say anything, and I willed it to leave, and it did. Or maybe it just made itself invisible. I started to realize it was feeding on my negativity. It all started with the nightmares, that mindless fear, and its smile. I was food for it, or it knew how to play me to make me food. So I starved it. I aggressively changed my life. I was already into spirituality, but I devoted my life to it and uplifting myself and clearing my energy. I found religion and made its presence the only thing on my shoulder. His voice, the only one I heard. I even started casting spells, and I cast a powerful banishing spell. I beat it with a passion. As this paper etched with all of its foul deeds burned away, I actually felt the oppression I had known all of my life start to fade. I felt confident in the fact that it was gone, and confident that I could shape my life just like I had shaped my dreams. I haven't had any nightmares since then. No physical intrusions. I still have some negative thoughts, because who doesn't, but they aren't nearly as frequent or as loud as they used to be. But maybe it's still there. Maybe it's just silently biding its time, waiting for me to slip up so I can sink its teeth in one more time. Edit. It's 100% gone. Anyone can do this. It's all about willpower. If you feel like you're being haunted or know someone who's haunted, buckle up and take your power back. The only ones who can truly oppress us is ourselves. Just make sure you do your research and aren't poking a bear with a toothpick. And that's all they said. So that's fucking terrifying. Holy shit. Thank you so much for allowing me to read your story. That is absolutely horrible, and I'm glad you are in a better mental state and feeling much better and that thing is gone, because that is fucking terrifying. Holy shit. So the next one is from the paranormal section, and it's from the Reddit author Michelle Mustuddy, and it's titled Scariest Moment at Dinner Last Night. My friend is a nurse practitioner who works with a geographic population, and a big part of her job is end-of-life care. She and I barely know each other, but she asked me out to dinner yesterday. We got to talking about spirits and what she's seen on the job. Things were going well until we really dove into the topic, and I noticed a change in her pallor. She started talking about how heavy she feels sometimes with all these spirits hanging on to her, and how even though she's glad she could be there for people at their time of death, it comes with its own complications. As she was telling me all of this, I suddenly heard the loudest sound of inhuman screeching of pain, anger, and sorrow. It was so loud that it drowned out most of the sounds of the restaurant, and it just kept going. A melody of twisted screams over and over again. I looked around, but no one else in the restaurant seemed to hear it. I thought I was going crazy. Then I started noticing weird things hanging on the windows, like dark specters, but they weren't moving. My friend, who is normally quite cheerful, seemed to be consumed by this negative energy around her, and I felt like they were making their presence known to me. I felt so off on the way home, and I just kept seeing weird stuff out of the corner of my eye. Everything slowly went back to normal when I finally got home and I laid in my bed. I have never experienced something like this before, but everything about our dinner seemed otherworldly and slightly spiritual. I'm still unsure how to process this and whether or not she is someone I should stay away from. And that's all they said. So that's fucking terrifying. Holy shit. So thank you so much for allowing me to read your story. That is so fucking scary, and I don't know what I would do in that situation either. That's terrifying. Holy crap. The next one is from the short scary story section, and it is from the Reddit author Obscenely Average, and it's titled Autonomy. I lost my eye again. And no, I don't mean a fake eye. I mean my literal, fully functioning eyeball. You see, a couple of months ago, I decided to do some meditation to better connect with my inner workings of my mind. You know how your brain controls your body through a network of nerves and hormones, all without your knowledge? There's a whole ecosystem living and thriving in you that you have no idea about. Well, I managed to tap into it. I could feel everything, every cell. Unfortunately, for me though, it turns out that the various beings existing within, on and including my flesh suit, were not very happy about suddenly coming under new management. The results being that parts of my body have been trying to run away ever since. It's not exactly a pleasant experience when your eyeball rips itself away from your socket. I could feel the connective tissue straining and being torn from my skull. I tried to keep the little bugger in there, but its slimy surface allowed it to slip through my fingers with relative ease. All I could do was watch through one equally dissatisfied eyeball, and the other rolled out of sight. My eyes aren't the only thing that's been trying to leave. Sometimes I feel my organs move around in a rebellious fit, pushing and pulling against my rib cage. A few teeth have decidedly evicted themselves from my mouth too. Since the ordeal began, I have tried taking better care of them. I've been eating better, doing more exercise, but nothing seems to work. So there I was on my hands and my knees, surveying the floor from my runaway eye. The first time it happened, it was easier because I could still see through it. This time, I had been cut off completely. From under the sofa, I heard the soft, wet slap of a tiny ball rolling across the floor, and in a moment of frustration, I decided enough was enough. I shifted the sofa out of the way to reveal the little devil, but instead of catching it, I lifted my foot and slammed it down aggressively. Pain seared through the place where my eye should have been, but screw it. If it didn't want to be a part of me, then fine. Within a few minutes, I came to regret that decision, as more of my body began tearing itself away. As I sit here and write this, my heart is bouncing around in my chest furiously. my bones are pushing their way out of my skin, and my hair is falling out in clumps. It's difficult to type when your finger bones are rattling around in your arms and trying to wrench themselves free from your torso, but at least I could do is send out a warning to anyone who will listen with my last few minutes of my life. You are not the one in control. And that's all they said. So that's obviously a fictional story, but that's really fucking creepy. It was written really well for a short story, and that was really fucking creepy. Oh my God, I don't know what to say. That's just kind of gross. And the next story is from the paranormal section again, and it's from the Velvet Rhodes author, and it's titled, Years Ago, I Believe I Saw My Doppelganger. This happened when I was a senior in high school, so almost 10 years ago. I still get chills thinking about it. I got home from school one day and was watching TV when I heard my front door open. It was solid wood and very loud. I then heard one of my friends call out to me, which was odd because I usually had a football practice after school, and it was 3 hours too early for him to be hanging out. Well, we go to the kitchen and I start doing dishes, and we're just talking about whatever high school drama was going on at the time. I wasn't able to finish the dishes before I had to use the restroom, so I left. I then hear the front door open and close again. He was gone. No goodbyes, nothing. So I gave him a call and asked why he left without saying anything. He was winded and asked what I was talking about, that he's been at football for the last hour and he never came to my house to begin with. I freaked out and went to the kitchen where all of my dishes and dishwasher had been started. Helpful demon? I literally have no idea how or why this happened. And this wasn't the first paranormal happening in this house. It was the scariest house I've actually ever lived in though. This was in Bufford, GA, for anyone in the sub who may be familiar with the area. And that's all they said. Holy shit. That's fucking terrifying. I have no words as to what that could have been. That is so fucking scary. Holy crap. So I'm gonna move on to my Instagram because I do have a couple DMs that I wanna read, and we're at about the 14-minute mark. So I'm gonna read one of the stories and then I will save the rest of them for another video. So this is just from one of my Instagram followers, and they said, I have a couple stories since that kind of stuff has been following me ever since I was born. And sorry in advance, but these are pretty long. Stuff like doors opening and closing when there's no draft or wind, lights flickering when there's no electrical issue, and the feeling of not being alone when I know I should, are things that happen on a daily basis for me. Even as I'm typing this, I've gotten used to it by now, and I can immediately feel if there's a presence around when I enter a room. But I have some experiences that stand out to me as particularly odd. First one occurred when I was only 1 year old. Now, I of course don't remember this, but my mom told me about it many times. A couple of months after I turned 1, my maternal grandmother sadly passed away, and my mom had to travel to her hometown for the funeral. While she was away, I developed a high fever and I wouldn't stop crying. My dad and my sister tried taking me to the doctor, but they couldn't figure out the source of my fever and why I was crying nonstop. It got so bad that my mom had to cut her trip short to come home and see what was wrong with me. When she came home, she couldn't figure it out either. And not knowing what else to do, my mom sat with me on the bed and just prayed that someone would give her the answer to what was going on. As she was sitting there looking at me, she saw me glance at the door that started to slowly open on its own. She followed my eyes that were clearly looking at something that was moving across the room towards the bed that my mom couldn't see. Then she smelled my late grandmother's perfume and heard a faint whisper that told her my ear was what's hurting me. My mom then pressed on my right ear and I burst into tears. She took me to the doctor with that information and they checked and I had an ear infection. My mom and I think it was my great-grandmother's last goodbye, and remember that she was always looking out for us. Story number 2. I would like to share what happened more recently. Like 2 months ago, the last story was wholesome and sweet, but this one's the complete opposite. In June of last year, I met my current boyfriend, and I usually don't mention to people my paranormal experiences because I think that they're gonna think I'm strange or something. Only my closest friends know about it because they all saw it for themselves. But anyway, one time when we were just starting to get to know each other, my boyfriend and I were talking and the topic of the paranormal came up. I was so shocked to find out he had experiences of his own and believed me when I told him about mine. He can also feel presences if they are around him, just like me. This will come into play later. In my town, there's a big open area that used to be a resort with 5 abandoned hotels all lined up on the beach. The resort has been abandoned because of the war that happened 30 years ago, and everything there is in ruins. It's overgrown with wild bushes, etc. A lot of lives were lost when these hotels were bombarded in the war. Now, 30 years later, this old resort has become a hangout for younger people. It's isolated and not a lot of people go there. And there is absolutely no lighting whatsoever. So when it's dark, it's super dark. To get to these hotels, there is 3 paths you can take, and all 3 of them go through a dark forest that looks straight out of a horror film. So one night, me and my boyfriend went for a walk and decided to go to that resort. It was a full moon, and we thought it wouldn't be that scary because of the light of the moon was emitting. We started walking along one of the paths, and as soon as we stepped onto it, it felt like there was hundreds of presences all around us, staring at us. But for whatever reason, I thought I was just paranoid, and we kept walking. But the feeling just got worse and worse. I felt like they were all around me, even up to the trees. I felt an increasing pressure, and I heard footsteps all around us. My heartbeat was getting faster, and it was getting hard for me to breathe. I felt myself going faster and faster until my boyfriend grabbed my hand, stopped me, and hugged me tightly and said, "I feel them too, they can't hurt us." At this point, I knew I wasn't being paranoid or imagining it, but now I felt stronger, so me and my boyfriend kept walking. And once we got to the beach, we couldn't feel them anymore. A few weeks later, I found out that that specific path we went on that night was used in the early 2000s for cults and seances where they tried to make contact with the victims from the war, and some people say they accidentally invited some things that they weren't supposed to. My boyfriend and I still go to that abandoned resort, and we have noticed that paranormal activity seems to spike when there is a full moon. And I have been researching that a lot lately. And I said, holy crap, that is so scary. Oh my God. Thank you so much for sharing that. And she said, it's really cool how you interact with your fans. And I said, oh, thank you so much. Like, I love to talk to you guys, and I love reading your guys' personalized stories because your guys' personalized stories are so good and so scary, and I like interacting with like you guys rather than just like reading stories from the internet. I like it when it's actually coming from like just people like me that experience paranormal things, because I don't really experience anything that's paranormal, and I love reading your guys' stories. So with that being said, if you guys have any paranormal stories, let's not meet stories, creepy stories, or just scary stories in general that you want to share with me, you guys can always email me, or you can message me directly on Instagram. If you guys got to the end of this video, leave me your favorite emoji down below, and I will definitely reply to everybody that leaves me a comment. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you guys did enjoy this video, please make sure to give it a big thumbs up. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button down below for more content like this, and I will see you guys at the next video. Bye.